Not every urban legend begins as a whisper in the dark. Some are born from tragedy and live on long after the person is gone. This is the story of Raymond Robinson, a boy whose life was scarred by lightning in the wires, and who became the face of fear in Pennsylvania. Locals called him Charlie No Face. Others whispered about the Green Man. They swore he haunted lonely roads at night, a figure with no eyes, no nose, wandering in the dark. But behind the legend was a real man. It all began in the summer of 1919, near a small town north of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Children often played by Wallace Run Bridge. It was a place of games, laughter, and danger. High above the bridge stretched power lines, 22,000 volts of humming electricity. 1 year earlier, a boy had already died there, Robert Little, electrocuted in front of his friends. But the warning was forgotten too soon. The summer heat drew children back to the bridge, and among them, 8-year-old Raymond Robinson. He wanted to climb up, chasing a bird's nest. One small step too close, and his hand touched the live wire. A blinding flash, a sound like thunder cracking the sky. His little body burned and broken. When they carried him to the hospital, the doctors could only save what was left. He lost both eyes. His nose was gone. One arm destroyed below the elbow. And the rest of his face melted, scarred beyond recognition. They said no one expected him to live. But he did. Raymond Robinson survived. And that survival was the birth of a legend. A legend no one would ever forget. Because a boy with no face could not be ignored. He returned home, changed forever. Neighbors whispered when they caught glimpses of him. Children hid behind fences, terrified. Even his own family struggled to face him. Some said he was forced to eat alone. Others claimed no one dared look him in the eyes he no longer had. In silence, he became a prisoner inside his own home. But the world outside still called to him. At night, when the roads emptied, he would step into the darkness, his feet tapping the pavement of Route 351, guided only by memory and the echo of his cane. Some nights he walked for hours, a lonely shadow drifting under the stars. Drivers passing by caught glimpses of him. A figure without a face, glowing faintly in the moonlight. And with every sighting, the legend grew darker. Some said he was a ghost, doomed to wander. Others swore he was hunting the living. And so, Charlie No Face was born. But legends twist the truth. Raymond Robinson was not a monster. He was a man who longed for freedom. Inside his home, silence pressed like a weight. No one spoke of his accident. No one spoke of his scars. At the dinner table, his chair was often empty. Some say he wasn't allowed to eat with his family. Others say they simply couldn't bear to look at him. So he kept to himself, listening to the radio, filling puzzles with blind fingers, tending the grass in the yard, trying to carve out a normal life. But loneliness grows heavy in silence, and so Raymond sought escape. Every night around 10 p.m., he stepped into the night air, the gravel crunching beneath his shoes. He walked along Route 351, past farms, woods, and lonely fields, sometimes for hours, sometimes until midnight. It was the only freedom he had. But freedom comes at a price. Word spread of the faceless man. a figure wandering the road at night. And soon, curious strangers began to follow. Teenagers drove in from other towns, whispering dares, headlights cutting the dark. They wanted to see him, to face the legend. And when they did, some laughed, some screamed, and some were cruel. They handed him glasses filled with urine, telling him it was beer. They beat him, left him stranded far from home. Others promised friendship, but drove away laughing, leaving him in the dark. Raymond learned to hide by the fence, listening carefully for familiar voices. He would only approach if he trusted what he heard. A man forced to live by sound alone. And still, he walked, night after night, until his shadow became a ghost story, a phantom of Pennsylvania road. Parents warned their children, "Don't go out after dark, or you'll meet him." Teenagers dared each other to find him. And slowly, Raymond Robinson was no longer just a man. He was a myth, a living legend of horror, and his name carried a chill, Charlie No Face. The Green Man, the faceless shadow of Pennsylvania. But myths are never content with the truth. They twist, they grow, and soon, stories of Raymond became something else. Some said he had fallen into a vat of acid, that his skin glowed with a sickly green light. Others claimed he was struck by lightning, cursed forever by the storm. Still others whispered of radiation, that his body was poisoned, glowing in the night, each story more frightening than the last, each one burying the real man beneath the legend. The faceless boy became a supernatural terror, a hunter of teenagers, a monster lurking in abandoned houses, a ghost stalking empty roads. They said he would knock on car windows or chase lovers parked in the dark. Some swore they heard his footsteps behind them. Others claimed to see his glowing skin vanish into the trees. The Green Man was everywhere and nowhere. Teenagers treated him like a challenge, a dare, a test of courage. "Drive down Route 351, they whispered. "Stop near the bridge, wait for him." And some did. Engines humming in the dark, eyes scanning the roadside shadows, waiting for the faceless man to appear. And sometimes he did. A figure emerging from the black, blind, scarred, staggering, and those who saw him never forgot. Some ran, swearing it was a demon. Others laughed nervously, hearts pounding, and the story spread like wildfire. A legend carried from town to town, until Raymond Robinson no longer belonged to himself. He belonged to the legend. Charlie No Face, the faceless phantom, the Green Man of Pennsylvania. And in every telling, the line between truth and myth blurred, until no one could tell them apart. Was he a man, a ghost, or something far worse? The legend refused to die. It grew darker, stronger, until Charlie No Face was eternal, even as the real man lived quietly in the shadows, breathing, walking, waiting for nightfall to escape once more into the darkness, where legends are born. And monsters never die. Charlie No Face had become immortal, whether he wanted it or not. Some said he was a ghost. Others whispered he was something worse. A man still alive, trapped in a body that looked half dead. Every night without fail, Robinson walked. Step after step, mile after mile along Route 351. He never begged for food. He never asked for help. He only walked as if bound to that road by a curse. Drivers swore his face was like melted wax, lit for just a second in the beam of their headlights. Some hit the gas, terrified of him. Others slowed down, drawn closer by a sick kind of curiosity. But no one ever invited him inside. No one dared to look too long. Children dared each other to leave pennies on the roadside fence. If they were gone the next morning, they said Robinson had taken them. Teenagers whispered that if you looked into his ruined face too long, you'd dream of him standing at your window at night. And still, night after night, he walked. always on Route 351, always alone. By the 1960s, Robinson had become a ghost story in his own lifetime, a living legend, a roadside nightmare. Some teens, drunk on fear and cruelty, would slow their cars just to taunt him. They shouted from their windows, called him names, dared each other to get closer. One night they offered him a bottle of beer. Robinson took it. Thirst doesn't care about pride. But the bottle had been poisoned, and when Robinson collapsed on the roadside, the boys laughed until they realized he wasn't getting up. Someone panicked. They ran, leaving him gasping in the dirt. He survived. But from then on, Robinson learned, not every voice in the dark was friendly. He stayed closer to the fences. He hid in the cornfields when cars slowed. He trusted no one, not anymore. By the 1970s, Route 351 had changed. The old road was quieter now. But Robinson still walked. New generations heard his story and went hunting for him in the night. Some claimed to see him at the bridge where his life had ended once before, his silhouette trembling against the steel beams. Others swore they saw his shadow in the misty cornfields, his ruined face watching, silent, from the rows. Truckers said he moved like smoke, here one moment, gone the next. And always, they said you could hear the shuffle of his footsteps before you saw him. People began leaving offerings, cigarettes, beer, coins, not out of kindness, but fear. Fear that if they didn't, Robinson would follow them home. And once he found your house, you'd hear him every night, shuffling in the dark, just outside your window. In the winter of 1985, Raymond Robinson finally died. He was 74 years old. For nearly 60 years, he had haunted Route 351. But death didn't end his story, it only deepened it. Even today, drivers say they see him, a figure limping along the roadside at night, face hidden, lantern flickering. Some claim that if you flash your headlights 3 times on Route 351, you'll see him appear on the shoulder of the road. Others say if you park your car at the old bridge, you'll hear his footsteps behind you. Pennsylvania locals still whisper his name, the Green Man. Or, more chillingly, Charlie No Face, a man who wanted nothing more than to walk in peace, and a world that turned his pain into legend. So if you're ever driving along a lonely country road in the dead of night and you see a figure walking just beyond the reach of your headlights, don't stop. Don't look too long. And whatever you do, don't follow him home.